Well, maybe we'll just start by quick intros, and then we'll get into some of the questions that we discussed last week. Errol, you want to go first?
Oh, sure.
It should be on.
Can we hear me? All right. Hi, my name is Errol McLaughlin. I'm with NextEra Energy. I'm a senior director in our clean energy solutions business. Our team was stood up to help commercial and industrial companies with their environmental sustainability or transformation efforts. Thanks for having me.
Hi, everybody. I'm Trinity, Lloyd. I lead the energy transition and sustainability practice for Google Cloud. I also work cross-functionally across Alphabet to leverage Alphabet assets, data sets, expertise, et cetera, and bring those forward for organizations to leverage them to innovate in their markets and spaces around sustainability. So, thanks for having me.
Thank you both for your time today. I want to start by talking about renewables. Obviously, renewables having a big impact on everybody's business. I'm just curious, maybe you could tell us a little bit about how you're approaching the renewable space and, any strategies in that category.
Sure. If you're familiar with NextEra, if not, renewables are our business. We're twofold, the deregulated side, which I'm on, and then we have the regulated side, which runs Florida Power and Light, the utility in Florida, but we'll stick with the deregulated piece. So what we've seen in terms of, I'll kind of flip the question just a little bit, but we're the largest generator of energy from the wind and the sun, but what we've seen with the transformation, it's transformed us from mainly dealing with renewables for utilities to working with commercials and industrials. That's what my group has done, and that's where we've kind of transformed as a company to do. We'll still always work with utilities, building renewables for them, but focusing on commercial and industrials, helping them across the line. And that comes with a whole different set of solutions, obviously, than your traditional large windmills that everyone's seen, but more of a focus on on-site. Companies like Google, obviously you're early adopters. Several other companies I've seen here, your companies were early adopters and have VPPAs and large-scale solutions, but you'll need on-site solutions for your scope 2, and then obviously we're working using hydrogen and things like that for the scope 1 piece, but that's really how it's impacted us the most, is really who we're marketing to.
Well, I don't want to hog all of the rest of the evening because I could talk about this all day, but feel free to come chat later or ask some questions. But Google, so I'll talk about it from kind of two directions. One is how do we leverage renewable for our own sustainability achievement? And as Errol mentioned, Google's an early adopter of a corporate PPA and sort of pioneered a lot of the programs that you'll see today in that space. We hit carbon neutrality back in 2007. We've had 100% annual match for the last, 8 or so years. And now we're focused on 24/7 carbon-free energy in every region we operate, so everywhere. And what's interesting, I think, from that strategy perspective is we had to create a lot of innovation and new programs and policy and processes in order to get to where we are. But in order to hit our next goal, which is a pretty major one, we really have to create an ecosystem. And so over the last few years, we have really looked externally and how do we build that ecosystem? How do we build innovation? How do we bring customers and partners on this 24/7 journey with us? How do we activate and help enable them in order to procure more on-site renewable energy and transform the global energy makeup? And so we've really done this by leveraging our innovation work streams and our programs around sustainability and renewables. We also have a really cool platform that you might be familiar with, or some pieces of it's called Earth Engine, and it's about 40 years of Earth observation data. And we plug that into some Google proprietary data, and we can do things like look across the globe and identify great candidates for rooftop solar. We can do remote sensing of building energy efficiencies or carbon intensity. And we can then leverage those with some of our innovation ecosystems to aggregate them for expanding the access of corporate PPAs to really any small business, community, et cetera. So instead of having to have a giant data center to get on-site energy, you have lots of different organizations that come together and create economies of scale. And this is enabled through really leveraging data and this ecosystem of innovation.
That's great. And then, something you both alluded to a little bit was more on the customer side, right? How are customers approaching renewables? And, given that we're here in Houston, I'd love to hear maybe your thoughts a little bit more on oil, gas, chemical, manufacturing, mining. How are large industrials approaching it? How are you interacting with them?
So what we've seen, especially in my time in this role, is it went from having a lot of doors shut in my face in the early stages of this and seeing, especially in the oil and gas, begrudgingly saying we're not going to do it and then begrudgingly kind of coming along to now it's part of their core business. I'm sure you're familiar with Exxon, Chevron, P66. They all have businesses stood up, core parts of business aimed at this transition, and not only to green up, if you will, their own operations, but to help their customers along, and it's a business unit. So that's the biggest transition we've seen. We're obviously investing, a considerable amount of money in hydrogen because it helps us clean up our own operations, but obviously our customers. And scope 2, bought power. Obviously, that's right in our wheelhouse. But back to the original question: how have we pivoted? How has it impacted us? Focusing on that scope 1 so that we can help that transformation. But that's the main thing that we've seen is really this transition to renewables are this dirty thing that's going to happen to us and we're going to have to go buy solar, to okay, let's think about this like adults. All right, this is a business unit, we can impact this as well. It's a core part of how we operate. That's that's kind of what I've seen, and then we're trying to help those companies with that. We just announced an MOU with CF Industries, the largest hydrogen producer in the world, fertilizer company, on a green hydrogen development. They've announced multiple MOUs, whether it be green hydrogen, blue hydrogen. We have another one with Linde as well in Arizona. So those type of partnerships where you have these, I call them strange bedfellows all the time, these companies you would never think that would
so true.
Ever partner. And IRA just flipped that on its head. And so we have companies coming through, and it's really impacted how our legacy leadership, how they think, because 25 years of business, you never would have thought that some of the companies that we talk to, that we would that come through the office, that they would ever visit our sites, and vice versa.
Well, I love this question because we're in the best city in the world for the energy transition. And for anybody that is hesitant around renewables, you're missing such a tremendous opportunity. We are truly on the precipice of the biggest economic opportunity of our lifetimes or ever. And what expertise is needed to help every organization and every person out there hit the goals that are all in front of us, the expertise is here, right? It's understanding hydrocarbons, it's understanding wells for geothermal, it's understanding industrial applications, it's the infrastructure to move energy, to move waste, electrons and molecules. That all exists, and the expertise on it exists here. So there is no better place in the world and no better industries to engage with than heavy industry, quite frankly. And the only thing that I can say is, if there's anybody that is thinking, gosh, I really don't want to do this, I want to stay in sort of the traditional way, you can do that, right? But you're missing such a tremendous opportunity for your business, for your career, and quite frankly, we need you. So change is hard, change is scary, but there's so much opportunity. Your expertise is desperately needed, and the interesting collaborations, the various areas that you can finance and fund projects for innovation, right? There's never been a time like this. So, leverage what you know, your domain expertise, and apply it to renewables and energy transition, and you, instead of being the taxi company, you'll be the Uber.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny how a lot of the tech development in this space earlier focused on the smart home, the smart office building.
Yeah.
They're not the big emitters, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's the large industrials, and now we're finally coming around to focusing on those footprints, which are not small, right? So, no. Agree with you. We got a couple more we talked about, but I'd love to just maybe get one from the audience. Anybody in the audience wanna ask anything? You can do it. No, you gonna leave me hanging?
Let me ask a question.
You want to take it, or do you want me to?
I'll take first shot. Classic pivot. When I started, carbon capture, first started to come up, and our manager was like, absolutely not, doesn't lead to renewables. Why would we do that? Fast forward to 2023, strange bedfellows. Now it's something, obviously, that everyone's looking at. And the original carbon capture company was like, we don't need NextEra. Yeah, we'll just do it this way. And now you see partnerships, not just us, but others, because, yes, you can do that, but we can power it with renewables. I think like all of these, it's going to take a lot of innovation. Obviously, the oil and gas companies have been doing, carbon capture for other, for enhanced recovery for years. They understand the tech. But it's going to take, government subsidies like we've seen with IRAs. It's going to see, partnerships. Saw announced yesterday that Louisiana went ahead and accelerated and said that you could store it offshore. It's going to take all of that, like a lot of these technologies. It's going to be a kind of a whole-handed approach. I think, transmission in terms of some of the other approaches are going to be key. I was thinking kind of government in my head, but one of the things we'll have to do, the biggest thing is going to be how do we partner with communities and get people to understand that, yes, you may not want a transmission line, you may not want a pipeline, you may not want any of this, but to get what you really want, you're going to have to approve some of this. And as companies, we're going to have to be good stewards, do it correctly, partner with the communities that we're in. But
yeah, I think also. So I echo those points. Carbon capture should be part of the equation, and it's critical to make it more cost effective. Traditionally that's been EOR, but really being able to just sequester and store is going to be critical for us. But it's a silver bucket, right? Not a silver bullet. And we need to be very thoughtful about that approach, but it's a tremendous opportunity. Going back to kind of what I said before, this is where the infrastructure exists, the expertise that exists, and partnering with massive data organizations, maybe like Google, that have subsurface cabling and have been looking at seismic activity and really kind of thinking outside the box on what are the opportunities. How can we in the energy industry partner with these other organizations, fund projects, enable faster innovation, and really drive down the cost today so that the market viability exists. This is where the infrastructure is, and understanding the ROI is the critical component, and then enabling that to make sense. I think regulation, taxes, subsidies, et cetera, if you can align to the top line, you're going to go a lot faster.
I think the one thing that we will have to, and we in just an industry, you'll have to show that carbon capture and sequestration is not a bridge to just doing what we've always done,
right,
in terms of carbon. If that's the aim, if it's already the perceived aim, but if that's your real aim as a company, it's just going to fail because you're not going to get the things you need from subsidies from the public and things. It's just not going. It's not going to happen.
You're right.
I like that. I think that's a good note to end on. So thank you both so much for your time and your insights today. Really appreciate it. We're going to move on to our next one. So let's,
Thank you.
I got to kick you 2 out.